I have breaking news.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's really bad breaking news.
I just looked at the chat and I want to die.
Bengals franchise receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade, per sources. Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped to be with the team long term, but is disappointed that the team has not had any talks about a long-term extension since March of 2023. He's ready to move on to a new home. March of 2023, excuse me? We haven't talked to the guy since March of 2023?
Yeah, that's not good. Here's the thing about the T requesting a trade. It's good and bad. It's good and bad. If you talk to anybody that, and I'm doing this off the riff, haven't had time to think about this, but if you talk to anybody what their opinion was on T. Higgins, what the Bengals should do with T. Higgins, I would say the majority of people that had an opinion would say, I would like to trade T. Higgins. I would like to get draft picks for T. Higgins. But here's the problem with it, right? He's forcing the hand that we wanted. The trade only worked if the value was there, right? I don't think anybody's willing to trade T. Higgins for what Jerry Jeudy just got in Cleveland, a 5th and a 6th. In fact, I'd want to puke if that happened. I'd vomit right on this beautiful, beautiful desk. It was always like a late first, early second. I think most would even concede for a mid-second. But now that it has come out that he has requested a trade, it kind of shorthands his value, or at least shorthands your leverage in these trade talks. Now it seems likely if he's requesting a trade, will he play if we don't trade him? That's happened before.
God.
A whole year we haven't talked to him.
That's ridiculous. A whole year? We haven't talked to him at all in 2024, according to what their side says. That is borderline almost unacceptable. It's blasphemous. Think about it. It's been a whole year since we had talks with him about his contract situation. Now, before I get too
I'm not gonna
here,
get warped up in the whole. It's been a whole year. I get it. It's bad. It looks cruddy. You know, and to be honest, when it comes to these kind of talks, I think we kind of overvalue the negotiations, right? I think we look too into the tea leaves when it comes to the negotiations. The simple fact of the matter was that there's a slew of young talent going into the NFL via the wide receiving position. There's also wide receivers, rightfully so, that think they should be getting, like a T. Higgins, around $100 million. And I think the Bengals always knew that wasn't likely. At least not on a long-term deal, a 4-year deal. You can get him on a short term, but even then, why would you not just franchise tag him for 2 years? This hurts because it plummets his value on the trade. It plummets. It doesn't plummet his value. It plummets the leverage that the Bengals have when doing these trade talks. If he is told the Bengals outright, I want to play for another team, I want to be traded, and I will not play for you guys under the franchise tag next year, what the hell can the Bengals do? We talked about the worst case scenario for T. Higgins was that he plays on this franchise tag and we get nothing walking out the door next year. There's now a new worst case scenario, and that is that he doesn't play at all, and you get nothing. The Bengals go to trade talks, and, you know, everyone's like, hey, with Jerry Jeudy 5th and a 6th, T. Higgins is much better than Jerry Jeudy. But you have these talks, and they go, well, there's some other guys coming around for a 4th. We'll give you a 4th and a 3rd. Is that what we're going to do? 4th and a 5th? A 3rd and a 3rd? Like, what do we...
This is worst case scenario at this moment.
Well, I mean, like, if it works out, if there's a team willing to give up a 2nd-round pick for T. Higgins, then it still works out.
I think there's also another scenario that it works out, and that's a player-for-player trade. Like, could you imagine a scenario where the Panthers give up Derek Brown, their star defensive tackle, who's on his 5th-year option in his rookie deal? That makes sense to me. That frees up your cap space. It's a win-win. You get a position filled in, and like we've already said, plenty of receiver depth in the draft. That makes sense to me. But the trading for picks now at this point, it does not look good. It's not looking good. Jerry Jeudy is definitely not T. Higgins.
Right.
We can agree
Andre
with that.
Yoshivas had double the touchdowns of Jerry Jeudy last year.
Right. So a 5th and a 6th, maybe that translates to a 2nd and a 3rd for T. Higgins.
Hey,
I don't
second,
know.
Listen, 2nd and 3rd, I'm game. I think we're below a 2nd at this point. I think
too.
we're below a 2nd.
I think
what seems likely is like a 3rd. Like I don't think we're getting a 2nd. And I saw someone in here, overreaction could be. I'm not a GM. Never claimed to be. I'm just out here spitting what I think.
Yeah, we're not necessarily overreacting to the idea of, like, we don't know what his value is. Me and Reed are not experts in the minds of these GMs, but we do know for a fact that this does not help his value whatsoever, especially him requesting the trade and making it public hours before the tampering period begins. I mean, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look, and I read into it a little bit more. Ian Rappaport said, T. Higgins has in fact requested a trade. As Adam Schefter said, the franchise tag is meant to keep long-term talks going, but Higgins' camp had no such talks before the tag was administered. Now the trade has been requested today. So, I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, we all wanted him. The best scenario was him to be traded to get value for him. I think we all agree with that.
First round pick, I said if a franchise called up and said, hey, we'll give you the 30th pick for T. Higgins, you do not hang up the phone. You get on another line. You call the NFL office and you say, hey, we got a trade. Can we put this through? I was even ready I would do the same thing for an early 2nd round pick. If we can still get a mid-round 2nd, I'm cool. It's whatever. Like the leverage is gone, but it's still whatever. It still works. I think you can get a good wide receiver in the 2nd round. I think, especially with the amount that T. Higgins has missed the field, if you get someone durable that plays 16 games as a 2nd round talent, you can get similar production. T. Higgins was a 2nd round pick, and I think we all know that he exceeded those expectations. But yeah, I don't know. If you want to, you guys, spin zone, little spin zone, frees up $20 million in a class where there's a lot of free agent talent on the defensive side of the ball.
If they were to get a trade done, I mean, Christian Wilkins is a serious player.
Eric Armstead.
Eric Armstead? Yeah. Michael Winu, another guy. I mean, all those options become a lot more realistic at that point.
Right. It's there's a lot of that's the spin zone. If you want a positive, you know what? This is what you come to Off the Bench for. You know, we hear some terrible news. We hear our dog's dying, and we say, hey, we got to get a puppy. What a terrible analogy. I'm sorry for that one. I retract the last 15 seconds of things I said. But at the end of the day, I'm going to overreact for the next 5 minutes and maybe for the rest of the week. But if you still can get a 2nd round pick for T. Higgins, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna knee-jerk reaction. Comes out of that, it's a 4th and a 5th, 3rd and a 4th. Yeah. Don't love that. Don't love that whatsoever.
I do have one other scenario for you. If it's not just getting additional picks, what if it's trading T and moving up with your 18th pick as well? You're combining the 2 picks and you're moving up.
T in your 18th to get in the top 10?
Yeah. Would you do that?
I mean, if it puts you – who's the 2nd wide receiver? Obviously, Marvin's the 1st.
Malik Neighbors. There's
if you can get a guy like Malik Neighbors, then, yeah, that works, right? Because then it just – like the options were – or if you can even trade up and get a guy like Joe Alt.
Yeah.
Or one of these top tackles. That's sexy.
I like that.
That gets me very excited. That gets me Blue Chew excited.
I would be all for that too. I mean, it's not doom and gloom, but I just feel like the biggest potential is gone at this point. That is probably for sure put to bed the high second round and a third round. It's probably put to bed a first round. We're probably looking at a low second round or a third. Maybe you combine those two, low 2 and low 3. I don't know, but
yeah,
see.
it's
we'll see.
yeah, it is a wait and see thing. What's funny about this, guys? We've made jokes on this show about how often we've talked about the T. Higgins stuff over the last few months. Go look at our videos, and there's probably a T. Higgins clip about every week we post on YouTube of us debating what we should do with T. Higgins. Ramp it up. Fire up the mills one more time. Let's keep it going. But here's what's so interesting about this is like how quickly does, if they are going to trade him, how quickly does it get done? Are we talking weeks? Because like I said, the fact that free agency starts today, if we are intending to trade T. Higgins, it's got to be done soon. So the money that you've allotted to pay 5 can be used elsewhere. And like I said, there's plenty of safeties. There's a lot of interior defensive linemen. You can solve a lot of problems if you get that $20 million free. Don't ever waste a good crisis. Bengals should not waste this one. But unless this move means one thing for sure that I think we kind of already knew, but now it becomes incredibly evident, is that one of the first 3 picks in the draft, probably one of the first 2 picks in the draft this year, is going to be a pass catcher. I don't think it necessarily shifts what the Bengals were planning on doing with the first overall, with their first pick, which was kind of trending towards tackle. But it makes it incredibly important that the Bengals get a pass catcher in the first 2 rounds. Because we're not just losing T, we're losing Tyler Boyd. I know neither one of them had a fantastic year. T turned on late. Tyler was dropping passes for some reason. But we're going from the team that had 3 star wide receivers, right? Jamar, T Boyd. So now we're going into next year with 1? Without a tight end that you would really like. Is Tanner Hudson the answer there? No. Drew Sample is the answer. But this team goes from everyone looking at this squad. Oh my God, look at all the weapons on this squad. There's a likely scenario in which Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins don't play in stripes next year. And I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think that's the end of the world. I think you could easily replace running back. I think that there's more talent flooding in the wide receiving pool than ever before. So it's not the end of the world, but those holes, all those holes that we talked about at the end of the season, going like, man, the Bengals got a lot to figure out. Got a lot to figure out between now and September. Add a couple more. So, in conclusion of this T. Higgins talk, before we get to the rundown, is that I'm still okay. Because I was the guy pushing. I would like if T got traded. I'm still okay if the Bengals can get a mid-second round pick. I'd be cool with what Casey alluded to. You trade your first pick and T. Higgins to get top 8? Sure. And by the way, who wouldn't want to do that? Like I forget all the teams in the top 10, but you get T. Higgins and you get another first. I mean, you lose, like you drop back 10 picks, but you can still get a first round guy.
Right.
If you're one of those teams that feel like you're close to competing, makes a lot of sense.